My friends, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Long time no see. I apologize for that. Today we're going to talk all things Tesla. First and foremost, if you're new to my channel, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Um, Please like and subscribe, all that good stuff. If you haven't already, please follow me on Twitter, Colin_Gladman. Getting pretty close to 50,000 followers on Twitter. We'll do a fun little giveaway when we get there. So if you haven't done so already, once again, please go follow me on Twitter. Um, if you're new to the channel, like I was saying, thank you. Also, too, you know the deal. Nothing about this video is financial advice. I am a technical trader. What that means is I pull up stock charts and I apply the way I view technical analysis to the charts to essentially make trades on a day in, day out basis. At the end of the day, I would identify myself more as a swing trader more than anything. Not necessarily a day trader, but if you haven't follow me on Twitter, you already know I'm a take profits guy. I'm not just a buy and hold guy or anything like that. My only goal is to get a return on my investment. So that's the way that I approach the markets. So like I said, we're going to jump into the video, talk all things Tesla. I'll give a little bit of kind of a macro look, but also too leading up to major events like earnings and robo-taxi. Those can obviously swing the stock in different directions. So having said that, let's do it. Let's jump into it. So starting out with the macro look at Tesla, this is going to be a monthly chart. All right. So here's where Tesla IPO'd all the way back in 2010. One of my favorite tools to use when I'm looking for where do I think price might go in the future is going to be Fibonacci retracements, extensions, expansions. It's a very simple tool to use. Essentially, how I do it is I start, so I'm going to start down here at the lower left. You start at the low of the range, you go to the top of the range, and then you come back down to your next low after that high. So Tesla has a habit of making these very, very, very long basis and then go through breakout periods. From back over here where IPO'd back in 2010, once it finally broke out of that range, you can see that the 2.618 of $22.08, Tesla made a very sharp move up here and then traded around in this range for a very, very, very long time. So if I apply that same logic to this range, right? So we go from the low of the range to the high of the range to the next low. And if you look, what did Tesla do? Once it broke out of that range, it made a pretty quick move up here to that 2.618. Now, what have we been doing? Well, we've been trading in a range again, right? So I always tell my traders that stocks are going to consolidate more often than they're going to move, right? They'll be trading within a range. So the reality is since 2020, really since about July of 2020, Tesla overall really hasn't gone anywhere, right? So like if you bought over here in July of 2020, the reality is yeah, it did move up, but then it's come back down. So the overall range is going to be consolidated up in here, right? This is kind of our new range that Tesla's been trading in. So if we go back, we apply the exact same logic that we have been. So I would say pretty much the July to August, of 2020 is when that started. So then we go to our high, then we go to our next low. That 2.618 is right around 3,000. And if you say, well, dude, there's no way Tesla's going to do that. Well, dude, it already has literally done it twice before. And you guys know the deal. History, doesn't repeat, but it often rhymes. Just like it did right here. I think Tesla is on the verge of a multi-year breakout. And it's probably going to do something very similar where it runs really hard, really fast, right? This thing can easily, move up here pretty quick, and then it'll probably go through another, long period of consolidation. The longer period of consolidation, typically, the bigger and the faster and the meaner, if you will, the breakout is going to happen. So that's just kind of a macro look. That's me going full Cathie Wood on this deal, right? But according to the chart, this thing could easily reach 3,000 over the next years, right? I would say within the next 3 to 5 years. It really just depends on when do you actually get a clean breakout of this range that we're looking at. So the reality is until we get over previous all-time highs of around that 412, it's all noise. Okay, for me, the way I am approaching Tesla on a very, 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 very macro basis is anything between 412 all the way down to about 120 is going to be noise on a big macro chart. Now, obviously, from a day-to-day price action, those are huge swings. But when you really, when in doubt, zoom out, if you will, that is the range that we are trading in. Now, let's get down here to a weekly chart. So Tesla is definitely at a point of consolidation and tension where I think it's getting ready for a relatively big explosive move. It looks good to the top side. Now, typically, if you've followed me along at Twitter at all, I said I thought Tesla could reach 300 before the robo-taxi event. The basing off of that number that I was doing was because I thought they were going to beat on their delivery numbers. I thought they were going to do right around 470 to 475 on delivery numbers. They didn't. They came in at expectations. Therefore, we saw a kind of a gap down and a sell off for a couple of days after those delivery numbers came out. So that's definitely going to be a wrong prediction there. Tesla dropped 30 points, if you will, post delivery numbers. I really thought it was going to rally 30 points. So the 30-point range was correct. I just thought we were going up instead of down, and we went down. It is what it is. So my anticipation was we were going to rally on delivery numbers, and then the robotaxi event was going to be a sell the news event. Purely looking at this on a daily basis, so this is going to be our all-time high trend line on Tesla. We have 1, 2, 3 solid rejection points. Came up, retested July of 2023. Came up. Oh, dang it. I did not mean to do that. We'll fix it. There we go. Came up and broke out in July. If you were following me on Twitter, you'll remember I had a bunch of January cons that I bought down here. We caught this squeeze, and it turned into a false breakout. Now, one could argue is this is where robotaxi was going to be, and remember, it got delayed. So this big, nasty, ugly daily candle right here in July is where the robotaxi event got delayed. Then it consolidated, earnings gap down, and now it's been consolidating essentially ever since then. Now we are reapproaching those same highs, heading into robotaxi is where it was in July, right? So the reality is we've kind of gone nowhere since July. Back to those prices. Overall, as long as Tesla remains above 250, I really like it. And honestly, even down to the low 230s, I think are going to be relatively very viable dips. So we've got our all-time high trend line. So this is the big level that I'm going to be watching right around this 245. We want to see support and we want to see buyers over this key resistance line. Any sustained move over this line, and I think we're absolutely pushing towards all-time highs again and going to be retesting. There's a lot of key levels to get through, in between now and then. So the big levels that I would be watching is if you take a fib retracement from your all-time high to the lows back in 2023, you can see this 243 to 254. This is what's called the golden pocket. This is going to be where if you are interested in shorting Tesla, as you can see, if you've shorted Tesla anytime it's come up in here, obviously you've had rundowns and you've done very well. So what you want to see is you want to see bears capitulate over this level. You want to see bulls really start forcing this price level. If we get some good solid closes up here in the upper, 250s to 270s, I don't think there's any question. We're going to push 300, and then 300's obviously going to be a key psychological level and number. But once we get past 300, then we're going to be pushing all-time highs. So on a much more macro basis, that is going to be the fib levels that I personally would be watching on that. Now, let's get into kind of what I think is going to happen on a week-to-week basis here coming up. Tesla's kind of in a double ascending triangle, if you will. So this was the one that I posted over and over and over again on Twitter. We had multiple inside bars, like 7 or 8 inside bars that built up from this sell candle right here. Then we got the breakout. Then we got the go. Got up here. This is where the delivery numbers rejection happened, right? And then we gapped down. What I love about this is even though we gapped down and started to sell off, overall, that dip was consistently being bought. So even though this is the all-time high trend line right here, right? So let me zoom out one more time so you just can kind of see that. So this is our all-time high trend line. So from all the way back over here, all the way back over here in 2021, this falling resistance line, you can see how important it is still to this day, right? The last 3 days of this week, right? All kind of traded around, ribboned around that all-time high trend line. So what I'm watching is, number one, I'm going to be kind of watching this rising support channel right here, right? So we look at this as a breakout of the ascending triangle, a retest of that neckline. Now I'm going to be looking for another move topside. Obviously, Robotaxi is going to play a big part, and whether or not this thing busts through, then we'll probably get some type of rejection and retest at that point in time. But overall, right, that makes a lot of sense that if we do break out of here, we're overall going to be heading up towards that key 300 area, then probably have something that happens heading into, so I don't want to get political here, but obviously heading into the election, I'm a big numbers don't lie, people do, right? So there's lots of data that suggests between this October 6th window through October 30th, the average S&P return during this time in election years is about -3 to 5%. Okay, now going back to the history doesn't have to repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So typically we would see something that's going to be an ugly day or two or even potential week here and then rally into the end of the year. I am still very bullish overall into the end of the year. I think any barring something crazy, catastrophic, obviously with what's going on in the Middle East and everything like that, barring something crazy, I think we're going to rally overall. I've said multiple times, I think we'll be over 600 on SPY. And then there's definitely murky waters ahead, but into the end of the year, into January, I think is going to be very bullish overall. I'm only going to be looking for any type of major dips. I would be looking to buy personally. You do what's best for you, not financial advice. Yada yada yada. Let's move on. So you can easily see here that we're in this ascending triangle look. Also, too, you kind of got this cup and handle look with inside that ascending triangle. So if I was measuring this out, there's a couple of different ways that we could come up with price targets in here. Number one, we could go from the low up here to this midpoint back to the low. And we already pushed to the one. That 1.272 is sitting right at there at 270, right? So like I said, this 270 to 260 ballpark area is going to be sticky. That's where I would imagine we're going to be heading into the Robotaxi event. And then that's going to be our catalyst either to shove out of here or it's going to be, roll over and then we might go through another markdown period. So there is certainly a chance, worst comes to worst, that if we zoom out, once again, tracking this pennant from here and the lows, that you might get another false breakout, come back down to around that 170 before you then go. The biggest knock on Tesla is essentially where's the growth story, right? So EVs, it was, EVs are the future. And I still believe to a large extent they are. But anybody who knows me knows that my view of Tesla is it's so much more than a car company. It's a robotics AI company. Elon Musk himself, regardless of your personal opinions of him, has come out and said that multiple times. I agree with that sentiment. So what Wall Street needs to see is it needs to see a huge potential for growth. If Wall Street believes that there's huge potential for growth with Tesla, it is going to get marked up, and it's going to get marked up very big, in my opinion, because the market is a forward-looking vehicle. The reason Tesla squeezed like this from 2020 to 2021 was not because of the business that it was doing right here. This is where you have people who go, well, here's what I don't understand. Back over here in 2020, Tesla's doing like 10 times the business that it is right now, and it's barely trading above where it was back over here. And it's because the market was planning on EVs, in my opinion, taking over a much bigger part of the market share right now. That's why it got marked up. And then now it's gone through, in my opinion, what's going to be a reaccumulation period where it's going to get marked up again. But the news story is not going to be on EVs. It's going to be on the robotics and the AI and the full self-driving and the software, yada, yada, yada. Like I said, I am not a fundamental trader. I'm a technical trader. But this chart is saying that overall, Tesla over the next 3 to 5 years wants up, not down, in my opinion. So that's why I'm going to trade it. Like I said, you always do what's best for you. So in this ascending triangle look that we have right here, typically the breakouts are going to be about as big as the base of the triangle. So this was roughly about 30%. So now we've got our breakout, our retest. I absolutely still think that this can be a 30% move. And this was also where my Robotaxi prediction came from, because a 30% move out of this would have put us at 300 if the delivery numbers would have delivered. Interesting way to put it, but yeah, delivery numbers would have delivered. I don't think there's any question Tesla would be chilling right up here at about 300. Now, that did not happen. So this is kind of the next ascending triangle that I'm looking at. And once again, overall, this base here is going to be about 48%. So any type of breakout move, yeah, I'd be looking for pushing, and that makes sense. I think Tesla, there's a very good chance, so long as the Robotaxi event somewhat meets expectations of there's going to be a great growth ahead of us, I think 350 to 400 is a very reasonable price target for Tesla into the end of the year. Obviously, they have earnings coming up as well, so that's going to play a huge part in it as well. And the reality is earnings have always been massive moves down minus a couple, right? Like back over here in April, minus a couple of earnings. Tesla's typically been a sell-off post earnings. So if Robotaxi goes well and then earnings goes well, 350 to 400 is not crazy in any way, shape, or form into that end of the year, middle of January time period. So overall, that's what I'm looking for on Tesla. If we go from the April low to the July high, as I said, a breakout from here, a lot of confluence, right? Our one extension puts us in that 350 ballpark. So even just a breakout from here. And when Tesla moves, it moves, right? The reality is this little squeeze that happened back over here in essentially 2 weeks, Tesla had a 50% move. So don't act like this move can't happen and that's an unreasonable price target in any way, shape, or form. So short term, what I'm looking for is I want to see this all-time high trend line right here continue to show support. I'm looking at this consolidation in here to break out. Any type of breakout and retest and continue to move right here, this is overall going to be a very good spot to whether you want to, get into some leaps as far as calls go. But what has been super strong resistance from all the way back over here over a year ago, once you start showing support and buying pressure over these levels, there's going to be a lot of bears to get squeezed out of this, in my opinion. So overall, any dips back towards the 230 range, so long as, and I'll tell you, the big thing that I want to see is this gap up right here where we broke out of this consolidation and we ran really hard. This gap right in here down to the 230s, I just want to see that get protected more than anything. So draw it out for you. All of this right here, so long as we don't fill this gap right here, so long as this remains a true breakaway style gap, I think overall Tesla is going to just continue running. I really do. Now, when I say continue running, of course, there's always going to be red days, right? There's always going to be red days. Nothing just runs straight up for forever. But this is overall a very bullish look, in my opinion. The most bearish thing that you could see, because you guys know the deal, I'm not just put blinders on and go, oh, we only go up, right? So the most bearish look that we would see is anything, if we do get any type of breakdown and then you retest this area and get rejected out of this area, then I do think you're going to see the upper 100s again, especially if the market is weak, if election looks bad, or but I think that's way less likely than anything topside. I am definitely on this chart in the overall market. I would say I'm about 75% overall topside into the year, 25% downside. So I would certainly, if I was a betting man, I would certainly be betting on topside and not downside from here on out. Yeah. Sorry. I never plan these videos out. I just kind of pull up a chart and start talking. So I apologize if this was just way too all over the place for you. Please go watch the video multiple times if you need to. But the reality is anybody who knows me knows I'm a big Tesla bull. All right. But I've also bought hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars worth of puts on Tesla. So I don't blindly trade it or anything along those lines. This right now is looking like a false breakout, a retest. Now we're confirming the breakout. We hold right here and start pushing up into Robotaxi. I think there's a very good chance that what I would really like to see is a big move outside, like be up in that upper 270s, somewhere between 275 to 300 heading into Robotaxi. Tesla have a really good week leading into it. And then Robotaxi be the sell the news event that gets us the retest back to around that 260 to 270 range, and then continue to push on up into the end of the year. Right now, unless something crazy happens, I think overall Robotaxi will still be a sell the news event. So I would like to see a run into the event, then sell the news afterwards. That gives us a great dip buy opportunity. But if it really looks like Tesla's growth between the robotics, the software, the AI, the full self-driving, if Tesla's growth really looks like it's back on the table, then it's been a major lagger, right? It hasn't gone anywhere. Even though the market keeps making high after high after high, Tesla is still in this same range. It's going to play catch up. And anybody who was around and traded, this massive gamma squeeze, back over here, it was a great wild ride. Literally lots of millionaires were made in here. So watching this triangle breakout, same thing. Even if you look at this, it's just kind of like our base, right? It's a 75% move. It's that breakout. We'd be looking for a minimum 75% move. Takes you back towards all-time highs, right? So even whether you want to trade this short-term, long-term, doesn't matter. I think overall Tesla is on the verge of a multi-year breakout. I think it's going to happen no matter what. It's just whether or not we're going to be in here and we just go, or it's going to get one more move back and then go. Either way, I'm going to be ready and plan for both. Is what it is. Hope this video was helpful to you. Like I said, please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Yeah, much love. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have a good one, my friends.